So, I accidentally made a fun game, and I don't know what to do. I'm gonna need some help. But first, let's bring you up to speed. Game jams. They're the science labs of indie devs. They are where developers throw their wildest ideas at a wall to find what sticks. And they are also the birthplace of many indie games. The 54th Ludum Dare just recently concluded, and as always, thousands of developers from around the world came together to attempt their hand at designing, coding, and completing a game in 48 hours. Anyone from Miyamoto to a newborn can enter to attempt the challenge. Doing well in a large-scale jam is something serious developers usually aim for, as it's a sign that your game might do well commercially, since the jam basically acts as a global prototype test phase, which is invaluable information. So it wouldn't be an understatement to say that people really put their best foot forward for these events. They take time from their schedules, kiss their families goodbye, and lock themselves in a room for the next 48 hours. And then there's me, who didn't even know the event was happening. The day before the event, I was live streaming development as usual, and the chat mentioned that there was a jam this weekend. My initial reaction was, meh, I've done a bunch of jams, I don't know about this one. But then they said it. They said the one thing that would trigger any inner city New York kid into action. If you don't join, you're a pussy. I guess we're jamming. The theme for the jam is always revealed the minute the jam begins. For me, that was 6 p.m. East. The themes are usually put to a vote by the community, so as I watched the clock count down with anticipation, I thought, what could the theme be? Break the cycle? Oh, that sounds cool. How about reflect? Yeah, that sounds fun. Limited space? Nah, that sounds like trash. So limited space. In usual game jam fashion, I always dedicate the first 2 hours to generating ideas. I'll start by scribbling the first 5 to 10 ideas that come to mind and then disregarding most of them because they're usually trash. After about 30 minutes of brainstorming, I had a page of random ideas I could potentially go with. But in the end, really 2 ideas stuck out the most. One was about gladiators fighting in an incredibly packed and dense arena, and the arena would get smaller over time. Basically a battle royale with gladiators. I nearly ran with it too, but I decided to run the idea by my internal quality department. Yo, what you think about a gladiator BR?
Yo, that shit fucking sucks.
Alright, well, the second idea is basically just a meme, and it comes from tire boxing. You know where 2 dudes stand in a tire and start destroying each other's ribs? Yeah, I thought that would be a cool idea, but then that idea led me to another more funny idea. Have you guys ever seen Russian telebooth boxing? It's a sport where 2 dudes get in a phone booth and beat the shit out of each other. Well, since the theme was limited space, what's more limiting than fighting a dude in a phone booth? After giggling and laughing to myself for a few minutes and getting the blessing of my quality department, I decided to move forward. It was now 8 p.m., 2 hours since the jam started. Since I worked on my main project all day, it's now time for night chores because tomorrow I'm gonna wake up early, get to work, and spend my entire day making this game.
5 hours later.
Oh shit, it's already 12. So it's been 18 hours since the jam started, and all I've got is some loose notes and a dream. Luckily, the night before I actually laid out the core features I needed for the game on paper. I figured I wanted a game that feels like a side view version of Punch-Out for the NES. Players have 4 basic commands: punch, haymaker, duck, and block. Punches can be blocked, haymakers break the block, and ducking dodges the haymaker. I also wanted a stamina bar, and if your stamina hits 0, your character would enter burnout state. Very simple. Having a history in competitive fighting games, my mind immediately started thinking about all the other mechanics like grabbing and combos. But no, this is a jam, and I have 48 hours. We're sticking to the basics. So I got into Unity, started BSing some code, and after about 3 hours of work, I had all of the core player functionality in place. Real exciting, I know. But this step is crucial. The foundation needed to be established before we built anything else. The next step from here was to make a player character with some basic animations so I could playtest. I went with a 16-bit art style because I thought it would be funny to have little characters with big fists. After about an hour, I had a 16-bit version of myself with fists bigger than his head, and I was pretty happy with it. The next 2 hours was me fiddling with some tuning parameters, adjusting the game feel, and adding some simple enemy AI. The enemy AI basically has 3 states: attack, defend, and react, where react is basically the AI reading player inputs. This gives the AI a little bit of randomness when you're interacting with it. I also decided to use the same character sprite for the opponent in order to save time. At this point, the game was taking shape. I basically made what I set out to make from a core development point of view, and it only took 7-ish hours. And on a personal note, for me this is actually a huge accomplishment and showed signs of personal growth as a developer, especially compared to my previous jams. So before wrapping up for the day, I decided to take some time to add some juice to the game. The game already has a guard break mechanic that is done by landing a heavy punch on a blocking opponent. But I wanted a way to show players that the guard break mechanic exists without spelling it out for them. And that's when it hit me. I've played a lot of Guilty Gear Strive, and those counter hits never got old. So I decided to add that. Whenever a guard gets broken, the camera zooms in and big text pop on the screen. Pretty dope. But then I extended that idea to dodging haymakers as well, and now both those mechanics feel very satisfying to land, and it's an organic way of teaching the players that this is what they would want to aim for. So after about 10 hours of work, I had a pretty solid base for the game. It was around 11 PM and it was finally time to go to bed, wake up early, and continue.
3 hours later.
It's now Sunday, I actually woke up at a reasonable time, and had a lot of energy to get the game done. The entirety of Sunday was dedicated to polish. I could have added more content like other characters, but I felt like the core systems were better to get down for a jam rather than more content. I added sounds, I cleaned up the game feel, and I tuned the enemy AI. I also decided to add a boxing arena for the background just because I thought it was funny. The game had taken shape, things were looking good, and I was approaching the upload deadline. It was now 5 PM, the jam was concluding in about an hour, and I was ready to upload the game. So I went over to the Ludum Dare website and... What do you mean the game doesn't qualify? I was supposed to make everything myself, including the music? Yeah, I used some random song I found on the internet, but I can acapella a beat right now. No, you're not talking to me like... So, Ludum Dare has 3 entry formats. Compo, which is the competitive 48-hour format, the Jam, which is the less strict 72-hour format, and Extra, which gives developers 3 weeks to finish their project. My target was the 48-hour Compo format, but I didn't read the rules. In order to qualify for Compo, you must create everything on your own. It's meant to be the hardcore mode for jammers. All the art, code, and sounds must be your own. The code was mine, the art was mine, but the sounds were from a library that I've accumulated throughout the years. And truthfully, the only sounds I used were punches and a background RPG track. So had I read the rules, I totally would have just made some punch sounds and acapellaed some beats. But with only 30 minutes left, I missed out on uploading the game into the competitive format. But this was okay because really that just meant I had 24 hours to clean up the game. I shared with friends, got their feedback, and I tightened up the mechanics. By the end of the 72 hours, for the first time for me, I completed a game jam that not only was I proud of, but that was actually pretty fun to play. In fact, it was surprisingly fun. This brings me to my current dilemma. As most of you already know, I'm working on my main RPG, Project Bloom. And I've been working on this game for 3 years now. But here comes this little mini project that I pooped out in 2 days, and it was immediately fun. So I'm at a pretty tough crossroad. Project Bloom is going to take another 2 years to complete, and Telebooth Knockout can probably get cleaned up, get new art, content, characters, and shipped out in a few months. Times 2. But I can't afford to pursue a side project that won't be fun or fruitful. So that's where I need your help. In the description, you will find the itch.io page for Telebooth Knockout. If you could take 3 to 5 minutes of your day, I'd really appreciate it if you could share your thoughts on the concept in the comments down below. Remember, I only spent 3 days on this, so it's not going to be perfect, but it should serve as a baseline for what the game could potentially be. I have some thoughts on how I can expand the core game a bit with more characters, little upgrade elements, and perhaps a local multiplayer option. I have to be very careful of the scope of this game because it's supposed to be a very small project and it can easily spiral into another 3-year development. But overall, I have a decent feeling about Telebooth Knockout. With that said, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If so, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. You can also consider wishlisting Project Bloom on Steam. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.